Welcome to the Scratch Made Life Kitchen. My name is Kim, and today we're going to talk about equipment and ingredients in the cheese making process. So let's get started. You are going to be surprised how many things you already have at home that you're not going to have to buy special to make cheese. When I first started making cheese, I completely got overwhelmed at what I thought the expense was going to be. And then I quickly found out that I didn't need to buy all these special things just because they were called cheese this and cheese that I could improvise with things that I had at home. And it made the process a lot less intimidating. So my goal here today is to do the same for you. So when we're making cheeses, the first thing you do for every cheese you're gonna make is heat the milk to a specific temperature. And you do that obviously in a pot that you put on the stove. This pot is stainless steel. That's what you want to use in cheese making, if at all possible. The reason being, stainless steel is not porous, so bacteria cannot absorb into the material and hide. Because even with hot water and soap, you're not going to get all of it out in the other material pots. So stainless steel, please get a stainless steel pot. Now, when you're very first starting and you're experimenting and you're wanting to know if this is for you, it's okay to use another kind of material. But if you get into cheese making, invest in a stainless steel pot or two, or like me, about 10. But anyway, one thing that's really important to know, this is a 2-gallon pot, but 2 gallons means all the way up to this edge. So I obviously am not going to try to put 2 gallons of milk in here. So if I want to make a 3-gallon batch of cheese, I need a 4-gallon pot. So that's just a little piece of information for you to know, so that if you order a 3-gallon pot and you are disappointed when it comes because you can't fit 3 gallons of milk in it. So you have your stainless steel pot. Next thing you need is a good stainless steel spoon, slotted spoon. Reason being is when we're stirring, especially after we've put our ingredients in there, we want to make sure that we can get everything as thoroughly integrated into the milk as possible. And you'll notice that this is bent like this. This is a great one to have. If you don't have it, if you have a slotted spoon already, go ahead and use it. But as you get into cheese making, and this is great because in cheese making, we stir like this. We don't stir like this. It helps, again, to get the ingredients that we're stirring into the milk more evenly integrated into the milk. So slotted spoon, stainless steel, preferably bent like this, and one piece. You know, you find some spoons in your kitchen that have a little nook right there, and it's a great place for bacteria to hide. All right. Now here's something that you may have to buy special, a thermometer. I said that heating our milk is the important first step, and we have to make sure that temperature is spot on. So if you don't have a reliable thermometer, get them. I got these online and it was 2 for $12. I love them. They are very reliable. I use them a lot, and I think I've had to replace one over the last 2 years. So it's a great deal. Super important because the heat of your milk is a super important step in cheese making. Now, when you start looking at recipes, you're going to find that they say add a 32nd of a teaspoon, an 1/8 of a teaspoon. And so these small teaspoon sets, which are about $6 online, really important to get. The biggest is a 1/4, the smallest is a 64th. So these small teaspoons are super important, or they're not teaspoons, they're a fraction of a teaspoon. And again, these are stainless steel, but they were only like $6. Now we've heated up our cheese, and we'll talk about the ingredients in a minute. The next piece of equipment we need is what they call a curd cutter. No, you don't have to buy anything special. I use my icing knife. Sometimes I use my chef's knife. Anything that will gently pull through your curds so that you can cut them will work. You don't have to buy a special curd cutter. I've been making cheese for a while now, and I still haven't bought a cheese curd cutter. So you already have this in your kitchen, I'll bet you. So after I cut my curds in the process and cook my curds and everything, now it's time to put it into the cheese mold. You're like, oh gosh, how much do those cost? Well, guess what? You don't have to buy a special cheese mold when you first get started. When I first started, I used this. It's a small cheesecake pan. And what I would do is I would just line it with my cheesecloth, put it on a mat, and then use the top as the follower, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, a mat. What kind of cheese mat? You don't have to get a cheese mat. Again, they're going to cost you a fortune. This is what they use for embroidery. It's called a plastic canvas. And I can get about 20 sheets of it for the same price. I can get 5 that call itself a cheese mat. Okay, so a plastic canvas, really important to have. And you can order them online. You can go to a craft store and they're going to have them in stock. So far, you really have maybe only had to spend about $20 to get into this wonderful world of cheese making. All right. Now, I said something about a follower. And why do we call it a follower? So you put it on top of your cheese after you put it in the mold, and it follows the cheese down as the whey gets expended. Okay. Got to put something on it to hold the weight. And a lot of times I just use a can. Now for this one, I would want a can that could maybe fit a little bit better in there so that pressure could be more evenly applied. And then you can put something on there for weight, a bag of sugar, anything like that. But here is the best beginner cheese press I've ever run across. Recognize these things? These are those big 5-gallon buckets that you can get at your home improvement store. And what you can do is find something in your home. Now this is the bottom of my Instapot that will fit in here. And then you'll put your cheese mold with your cheese in it on top, whatever you're going to use to hold the weight, and put it in the bucket. And then you're going to take a second bucket and put it on top. And then you're going to add the appropriate amount of water to this second bucket. Now, a gallon of water weighs about 8 pounds. So this is a 5-gallon bucket, and it could take up to 40 pounds. And if you need additional weight, you can put weights in there. You can put whatever you need to get it to the weight you need it for. But when you're starting cheese making, I can't think of a cheese that you're going to make that you need to press over 40 pounds. So this is a great, you probably have 1 or 2 of these in the garage. My husband went out and bought me another one, and it was $3.48. So, okay, we're almost $25 into this, okay? So you get it in the press, and after you take it out of the press, and all these steps will make sense as you watch cheese making videos, and you want to take your cheese out and you're going to drain it. So you're going to take your draining mat, and you can just put it on a cooling rack that you've set inside a baking sheet. And it'll catch the whey. And I bet you already have all of this except for maybe the plastic canvas. So when you hear draining mat or draining tray, set up something like this. This is all you need. And then a strainer. When we separate the curds and the whey, some recipes have you pour out the curds and whey into a strainer. And you would just line this with your cheesecloth and let it drain for the amount of time the recipe tells you. And I bet you have one of these already. So here we are, we're still at about $25. Cheesecloth. I will ask you to invest in some 90 grade cheesecloth. Most of the cheesecloth you get at the grocery store is 45 grade. So this is twice the fiber knit, if that's the right thing to call it. I don't know, but it sounds good to me. That you can get in the grocery store. Now, if you don't want to go online or try to find a 90 grade cheesecloth, just take your 45 grade cheesecloth, double it up, and use it like that until you get a little bit more into cheese making and say, yeah, I really dig this. And this isn't very expensive, and you can reuse it. And we'll talk about that in another video. See how I try to hook you in so you can come back? So in some cheese making recipes, they have you put them in a draining container for a while. And you go, oh, how much does that cost? Well, not a whole lot. This is a piece of Tupperware that I use on a regular basis. And I just take some of that draining mat and I cut it to fit, put my cheese in there on top of it, and set the lid on top of it like that. I bet you have something like this at home already. So you're only about $25 into your cheese making process with the equipment. Not bad, not bad. It's a lot better than the couple hundred I was looking at when I first started. So now let's talk a little about ingredients. When you start cheese making, you're going to start with a fresh cheese, and it doesn't take any special ingredients. You probably already have them at home. The milk, in which we talk about in another video, either vinegar or lemon juice, so the acid, and then kosher salt. Now you always want to use kosher salt. Iodine will kill the good bacteria that you need to make the flavor in your cheese. So don't use anything with iodine in it. Any salt other than salt with iodine in it. Any vinegar, any lemon juice. I use vinegar, and you're going to use this for like ricotta and queso fresco. The reason I prefer vinegar is that you use it in such a small enough amount that it doesn't impart any kind of flavor on there, and it's consistent. I know that it's about 1/3 of a cup to a gallon, and 2 what I refer to as bloops. Now, bloop is simply bloop. You know that sound it makes when it goes in? And another bloop. Now, for those of you who want something a little bit more technical than bloop, it's just shy of a tablespoon. But I like bloop better. That's fun, because we like to have fun in cheese making too. So the acid in your vinegar is much more consistent than in your lemon juice. So think about it, but you can use lemon juice too if you want to, but it's going to change from lemon to lemon. And I much prefer the fresh lemons than the store-bought lemons. Now, okay, I've made queso fresco, I've made ricotta. I want to move on. I want to make something like a Gouda. Here's what you need to get. There's 3 ingredients that I'm going to recommend. The first is your culture. Thermophilic culture, so thermo for temperature, and mesophilic culture. If you go to the New England Cheesemaking Supply website or any other cheesemaking supply website, MM100 is a great all-around mesophilic culture. It'll work for Gouda, cheddar, Havarti, a lot of your basic cheeses that you're going to get into when you first start making cheese. And then your thermophilic culture, I like Thermo type C, and that's good for like your Parmesans. So these are great cultures to get if you don't want to spend a ton of money when you're getting into cheese making. The 2 of them together are about $20. So now we're up to about 45 bucks. And then your rennet. Your rennet is what you need to start the process of separating the curds and the whey. And this 1 ounce bottle is $5. So for $50, you can get well on your way into your cheese making adventure. Now, I much prefer the vegetable rennet and the liquid rennet because I have friends who are vegetarians, and if I use animal rennet, they can't eat my cheese. Is there a big difference? Not in the beginning. As you get into aging cheeses, I understand, and I haven't done this, so this is just what I'm being told by people who've made cheese for a long time. If you're going to age a cheese for a long, long time, they say that vegetable rennet can cause a little bit of bitterness, so you might want to think about animal rennet. But you're probably going to use up this bottle before you get to the point in your cheese making journey where you're going to be thinking about aging cheeses for a year. So, in short, this is what you need to get started on your cheese making journey. So play this video a few times, make yourself a list, go out and get what you need, and come back to this channel and find a cheese you want to learn how to make. I strongly recommend starting with ricotta or queso fresco. And again, that's just your pot, your spoon, your vinegar, and your kosher salt. So thanks so much for joining me. You have a great day, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.